The infamous video game series was never really about being a superhero. It was about what happens when the world decides you're the problem and asks you to save it anyways. From the very beginning, MacGrath isn't choosing between good and evil. He's choosing between self-sacrifice and self-preservation.
Enough to feed the three of us for weeks, maybe longer. But if I fry a couple people in the crowd, the rest will run away. The food will be all ours. Some of these guys might starve.
And what makes Infamous so uncomfortable, what makes it linger years later, is that evil never feels insane. It feels logical. This isn't a story about right and wrong. It's a story about power, guilt, blame, and who we quietly expect to disappear so that everyone else can feel safe. So let's start with Empire City. Thousands die in an instant via an explosion, and this explosion wipes out an entire section of a city, 5 square blocks to be exact, and Cole survives. That alone seals his fate, because survival in moments like that isn't seen as luck, it's seen as suspicion. Cole doesn't wake up as a hero, he wakes up as the only one left standing, and from that moment on, the city needs answers. It needs someone to blame, and at first it was terrorists, then it was the government, but then people realized that Cole is right there, the man who was at the center of the blast and managed to survive. And this is the genius of Infamous 1, because the game doesn't ask you to become a villain, it treats you like one first.
Ever been called a terrorist?
The civilians throw rocks at you.
Damn it! I gave you the food, leave me alone!
They run from you and they attack you even when you help them. The game forces you into a psychological corner most stories avoid. What the hell does being good even mean when the people you're saving are afraid of you? Good karma in Infamous 1 isn't heroic, it's humiliating. You absorb damage, you restrain yourself, and you protect people who actively resent your existence. Evil karma, on the other hand, does not start with cruelty, it starts with detachment. It's the moment you stop trying to convince the city you're safe. The moment you stop bleeding for approval you'll never receive. And that's what makes the evil path so unsettling. It does not feel like madness. It feels like a man saying, if I'm already the monster, why keep pretending otherwise, you feel me? Infamous 1 teaches you something brutal. Morality changes when survival is on the line. Because not everyone who chooses evil wants to hurt others. Some people just stop caring whether they're loved. This is where Infamous separates itself from traditional morality systems or choice-based games like Telltale or Life is Strange. Most games reward you for being good. They give you praise, allies, and validation, but Infamous doesn't. It makes you feel lonely, isolated, and it makes evil feel efficient. Power in this world does not make you admired, it makes you feared, and fear is predictable. Fear does not argue.
Thanks for watching my back.
Sure, man. I ain't about to do anything that might piss you off.
Fear doesn't question, and fear gets out of your way. Evil karma gives you something rare, control without explanation. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to prove your intentions. You act and the world reacts. And this is why Infamous resonates with people who feel scapegoated, misunderstood, or blamed, for better or for worse.
Longest time, I wanted nothing more than to get out of this city, leave it to rot. But when I was staring at the ray sphere, I realized that there's no reason for me to leave. This is my city now. I control every inch of it, and no one is going to stand in my way.
Because at some point, being good stops feeling virtuous and starts feeling like self-erasure. And that question lingers heavily in the sequel. Infamous 2 does not ask you who you are, it asks you what are you willing to lose. By now, Cole understands the cost of power. He's lost his anonymity, he's lost safety, and he's lost people he loves. And every time he does the right thing, the cost increases. Good karma in Infamous 2 isn't empowering, it's punishing, even more so than the first game. You restrain yourself while the stakes rise. You save people who see you as a threat, and you carry responsibility without relief.
I had been given powers to defeat the beast. I was strong, I was ready, I had fought it with everything I had. And it wasn't enough. That needed to change.
But evil karma offers the opposite as per usual. It offers power without restraint, strength without guilt, and a future where Cole doesn't die for humanity. And this is where Sucker Punch shows how good the writing quality is and what makes Infamous 2 one of the best video games of all time. At the final decision, Cole isn't choosing between life or death. He isn't choosing between good or evil. He's choosing between godhood and his humanity. The good path is brutal. Cole gives up the chance to become something permanent, untouchable, and eternal. He chooses to die so that humanity doesn't have to live under a god. And in New Marais, they don't remember him as the demon of Empire City. They remember him as their protector, the patron saint. A man who proved that real power is knowing when and when not to use it. In that ending, good doesn't win. It transforms and it flows. But the evil path does the opposite. Cole doesn't disappear. He ascends and he absorbs the beast's power. He becomes something the world has to adopt to. Not a hero, not a martyr, but a force. And that's the question Infamous 2 asks. Is it moral to die for the world, or to rule it so that it can't destroy itself ever again? Here's why Infamous hits harder than most moral narratives. Evil doesn't come from rage. It stems from fatigue. From being the one who always has to absorb the damage. From being expected to sacrifice quietly without complaining. From being told that suffering is noble as long as it's yours.
That he'd come back in time to mold me into the savior he failed to be. Going so far as to kill the woman he loved, I loved, so that I wouldn't be tied down by emotions.
At some point, self-sacrifice stops feeling holy and starts feeling pointless. And the game doesn't shame you for noticing that. After all, the original canon ending was supposed to be the evil one for Infamous 2. The game lets you ask the uncomfortable question, why should I die to enact change when I could stand at its center?
I have become the beast.
That question isn't villainous, it's human. And that's why Infamous endures, because it doesn't tell you what to choose. It asks you whether the world deserves your sacrifice. But here's where things get interesting, because after Cole's death, the question changes. Infamous Second Son isn't about blame, it isn't about martyrdom, it's about inheritance. Delsin doesn't carry the same guilt. He isn't born from disaster. He grows up in the shadow of legends, and that changes everything. Second Son asks a different question. What happens when power isn't a curse, but an opportunity? When rebellion replaces responsibility? And when identity matters more than sacrifice? Cole's story was whether power and conduits should exist at all, but Delsin's story is about who gets to wield it, and that's a different kind of danger. Because when power doesn't cost you everything, it's easier to justify using it. So if the first two Infamous games were about survival and godhood, Second Son is about temptation. And that's where we're going next, because the most dangerous type of power isn't the kind that destroys cities, it's the kind that feels deserved.